Hi, welcome to NAR Fellowship. Today I have Susan of the Silver Nest Network, who has various interests and also occupations, and she's a learner and a helper. So I look forward to talking with Susan today. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Maybe if you might be kind enough to give a short synopsis of like kind of some of the stuff that you're interested in and some of the stuff that you do. And then we'll go into asking you about your learner's journey.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I am an office manager at an auto repair shop. I recently got my realtor's license, so I've got that going. I also started a networking group called the Silver Nest Network, which is to connect seniors with local businesses and their families, because a lot of times it's the families that are taking care of the seniors and helping them around the house and those kinds of things. I'm also a gluten-free baker, and I am getting that kicked off as well. It'll be Susie Q's gluten-free creations. So I'll have a micro bakery. So I'm hoping to launch that in the next 2 weeks. And I craft and sew and do all those kinds of things as well. And I have, I'm a big dog lover. Right now I'm down to one. When my husband and I first got married, I had 7 dogs. And he thought I was crazy, but I had everything from a 120-pound German Shepherd Doberman down to a 4-pound Chihuahua.
Aww.
So right now I just have a pug. So.
Aww. Wow.
And you may see him at some point because he likes to sit behind me. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
His name is
Dogs
Willie.
and cats are welcome. Yeah.
Oh, here he is.
Aw.
Say hi.
Hello. Aw, you the sweetie pie.
So anyway.
So the first question is, what was your learning journey like? And different people answer it different way. There's no wrong way to answer it. So one lady answered from a pivotal memory that kind of sparked the lifelong learning journey for her, the enthusiasm and hobby for lifelong learning. Other people tell about their education background, and other people do a mix of both. So you feel free to do whichever works best for you. But what was your learning journey like?
So when I was young, up until through high school, like I never really liked school. I never really was my thing. And I never really thrived there, and I never felt like I was smart. And when I went to college, I went a little later because I had my son when I was 18, so right out of high school. And so I started college when I was 24 and he was 5. So our schedules could mesh. And it was when I got to college that I figured out I was actually smart. And that was really fostered there. And so then I was just I kind of like took off from there. I mean, I've always learned new things. People look at my resume and they're like, it's very eclectic because I haven't stayed in one track. I worked at a place called Dive Rescue International for almost 15 years. So that was doing aquatic rescue and recovery training. I also ran a nonprofit for 8 of those years that was part of that organization as well. I've worked for myself, doing estate cleanouts, doing gluten-free baking. The auto repair shop, I worked at Walmart as, I started as a picking orders. So we'd pick in the morning and then we would ship them in the afternoon. But then that kind of got really boring for me. So then they moved me into a management position. So I was a ladies apparel manager for a while. And then I left Walmart and then ended up at the auto repair shop where I've been for the last 5 years. But I've also always went to yard sales and done thrifting and picked through free piles on the side of the road and sold things for extra money, or just, helping people out. I have something, I call it my distribution network. So a lot of times if I'm doing an estate clean out, or just helping people move, things like that. We helped 2 families move last year. One went to Kentucky and another went to Montana. And a lot of their things, I had sales and everything, but we also put things into, I have a friend, she works with Soul Dog Rescue. So a lot of the dog toys and blankets and all that kind of stuff, they went to the rescue. And I have another lady that I work with, and she works with the homeless people. So we ship some stuff to homeless people, and I work with people helping people. And that's working with families who are just getting back into housing, who don't have anything. So they help, furnish their apartments with furniture and silverware and plates and, art and, all that kind of bedding, all that kind of stuff. And so I look at what I have and to figure out where things are going to go. And because I like to help people as well, try to put things back out, that the people wouldn't necessarily be able to have otherwise. So.
Well, it sounds like you had and have numerous occupations where you had to learn whole new things. You seem to thrive in keeping busy and productive, probably out of necessity as well as like inclination, I would assume. Is that correct?
Yes, and well, I said it's funny because, like I said, people look at my resume and they're like, it's very eclectic. But because, like I said, I've never stayed in the same track, and every job I've ever had, I didn't know anything about it until I started. So but my excuse is, well, I don't have any bad habits. So you can train me, you can teach me however it is you want me to learn, because I don't know anything anyway. And so that's kind of my hook to to get them to pay more attention, because like I said, I don't come with the bad habits because I haven't done it before. So they can mold me however they need to for whatever position that it is.
So what, how did you discover in college that you were smart? What was the moment that you realized that you were smart?
Well, so when I went in on a preliminary program because my ACT scores were borderline. I wasn't quite high enough to be fully admitted. And so what they do is they take you on a temporary basis, and then you have to they give you a year to prove yourself. You have 2 semesters. And so I proved to myself. So once that year's over, then you get, I'll say fully admitted, but I mean, it's just, so then be like if you were a regular person going that, had regular scores and things like that. So I went from that to graduating with honors.
Sweet.
And it was just along the way, I had really good instructors who really helped me along the way. And when I got stuck with things, they really dug in and they helped me to I understood whatever it was that I needed to learn. And I also wrote my can't think of what it's called now. Thesis as an undergrad. So because I initially had started to go to school to be a teacher.
Oh.
And my son was a Cub Scout at the time, and I had 12 little boys that I was in charge of.
Wow.
That's a lot of little boy energy. And so I decided after a couple of years of that maybe that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I dropped the teaching curriculum, and I was invited to join the an honors curriculum. And so I did that instead. So you had all your regular coursework. So my major's in social science, and then I have a minor in geography. And then in addition, I took the, it's like a whole nother curriculum for the honors program.
Well, I never took college, so I'm a little ignorant how colleges work. My dad used to teach part-time at a community college in the film communication department because we worked in media production at the time. But I don't know anything about the honors program. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
like I said, it was something it was by invitation only. And you went in, and then you, like I said, it was a whole separate curriculum that you had to complete in addition to your regular coursework. And then you had to, I believe you had to had to keep a certain GPA to be able to stay in the program. And it's been a while because I graduated in '98, so that's been a hot minute. And then at graduation, then of course you were, recognized as being part of that particular group. I think my group was, I think there was maybe 10 of us. So not very many.
Wow.
Out of my class. I think there was about 10 of us.
So there were special classes you had to take. What were they were tied to your degree, or were they tied to something else? I apologize. I just don't know.
I think they were pretty, I'm going to say generic for lack of a better word, because we weren't like all like social science people. There were English majors and other things in there as well. So it was just a particular curriculum that, was kind of a broad stroke. Because we did English things. We did a lot of reading, a lot of research. We all wrote our theses as undergrads. And those were all different as well. So
cool.
So that was part of it too. Is that you had to work with your whoever was in charge of you to get your thesis done, because there were certain rules you had to follow at that time. I don't know how it is now, because I don't know anything about college now, but you worked with your mentor to get to make sure all your ducks were in a row. And then it went to a board. Your thesis went to a board that had to be approved. And then that was part of your requirements for graduation as well, under that and in that curriculum.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. So one of the things I like to talk about, but you kind of brought it up, so I'm going to ask about it anyhow now. I usually ask about it later, is mentoring and teaching. So you've done teaching and you've also been mentored, and I assume you've also probably mentored others?
Oh, yes.
What are some thoughts you have about that for, how did somebody mentor you well? What did they do that helped their mentoring of you? And what lessons did you glean from that to help other people?
For me, sometimes it's really hard. I always say I'm thick-skulled, and I think you have to have a lot of patience when you're mentoring somebody, because they may not understand what you're trying to tell them on the first go. And not everybody learns the same way. So sometimes you have to present material in more than one way to get them to understand it. For example, I had an awesome English teacher in my preliminary program. Her name was Judy. And she and I clicked like right away. And she could see that I was really strong in English. And I always had been, because when I was younger, I was kind of I would, write stories and write poems and those kinds of things. And so she worked with me. And then so I had her my first and second semesters in my preliminary program. And then from there, I kind of became her assistant. And then I was working with other kids that were coming through, starting school. We had a program called, what was the Asian Pacific American Student Services. And I actually got a job with them. But before that, I was already working with these kids because UNC had a program with the University of Hawaii. So they could come to UNC for in-state tuition, and kids who would go to Greeley can go to Hawaii for in-state tuition. And so we had a lot of these kids come over from Hawaii who'd never been to the mainland before. They'd never been off an island. And then you come to Greeley, Colorado. Well, it smells bad and it's cold and, so they're totally out of their element. And a lot of them, like I said, they'd never been to the mainland before. And a lot of them, like their English wasn't very good. And so I spent a lot of time working with them, doing just whatever the assignments were and sentence structuring and all the English things. And then when I started working at APAS, I did a lot of that as well, working with them. So it's just a lot of patience and just a lot of repetition sometimes. And you look at something and you go back and you revise it and then you revise it again and revise it again and revise it again. And the thing that I learned when it was happening to me was that you can't take it personal, right? It's just making you better. It's making you a better writer. It's making you a better, whatever. And, I would, like when Judy, like when I very first got started, she would like mark up my papers. I mean, it'd come back to me like full of red and I'd be like, ooh. And she's like, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. These are just the small little tweaks you need to make. And I would make it and it would come back and it'd be fine. So it wasn't that big of a deal. It just looks really bad when you see it, but it's not necessarily, and some kids were, they catch on right away and it was really easy for them. There was other ones that I worked with that it took a while. And there was a couple of them that things just never clicked and they never became, I guess, accustomed to college life. And they actually went back to Hawaii and they stayed there. They didn't come back after break. Like after the first semester, I think I had one leave after one semester and another one leave after a year, and they didn't come back. And I'm sure there was probably more, but that was just my experience. So,
what are your current learning pursuits personally and professionally right now?
So right now, I just got my real estate broker's license in March last year. So I'm still learning about, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm still learning about, all things real estate. And like I said, I'm doing the baking. And so that's always, the gluten-free stuff is always a challenge because I have my set recipes because I was actually, I actually had a micro bakery right before COVID started. Oh. And then once we got into COVID, everybody freaked out because they're like, oh my gosh, it's in your house. And they're like, what if somebody's sick? And I'm like, well, first of all, if somebody's sick, I'm not going to be making anything anyway that I'm going to send out the door. And I said, second of all, you're probably safer with me than you are with 15 people out with their hands in your stuff at Walmart, but it was just I'm sure as you remember, such a strange time for people. And it just didn't work. And that was fine. But now I'm ready to get back at it. And I'm going to make some different things. I'm learning how to make bread. That's been one thing that's been elusive because I know there's a trick to it. I just haven't quite figured out what that is yet. I tried some sourdough. I tried to make some sourdough starter that's gluten-free, and I ended up with a big moldy mess. So that went in the trash can. But when I first got diagnosed as celiac back in 2013, 14, we went to the store and like we'd buy like muffins or whatever, and they were awful. Cookies, they're like, this big, and they cost like $10. It's stupid. And so I told my husband, I said, I think I could probably do better than that. And he's like, well, then I guess you better get to it. And so I got started, and the very first thing I made was supposed to be like a lemon raspberry muffin, and they came out like bricks. So they went straight from the oven to the trash can. So it's a lot of trial and error, but like with everything that I do, like I have a rug that I started on a loom that my husband built me and I haven't worked on that for the last couple of years, just because I haven't had time. But I want to get back into doing that as well. And like I said, I sew, and the sewing's also trial and error for me. And whenever people want me to do stuff for them, I always say, okay, I'll do it, but my stuff is imperfectly perfect or perfectly imperfect, however you'd like to look at that. So if you want a seamstress, I'm not your girl. Yeah, I'll make it as straight as I can. And I mean, things, I'm not going to get somebody something back that's totally wonky, but if it's really complicated, I'm not going to do it. And I'll just tell people straight up, I'm not your girl for that. You actually need somebody that's what they do for a living. So like I said, for my life, it's a lot of trial and error. And I always look at, there's always more than one way to do things. And a lot of times the way I think about things isn't the way other people think about things. And so they look at me and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just wait, you'll see. And then most of the time it turns out fine. And sometimes it doesn't, and I have to redo it, but that's okay. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I have a weird spatial thing, because I can look at a space and say, okay, yeah, that chair will fit there, or that dresser will fit there, or you need to, turn something a certain way to get it through the door, or, weird stuff like that. And my husband, he gets mad at me because I'll say, oh, I need you to move that dresser over there in the corner. He's like, well, it's not going to fit. I'm like, yeah, it will. It's not going to fit. I'm like, yes, it will. And then he puts it in the corner and it fits fine. So
your poor husband.
In fact, we did that the other on the January 1st. That's what we did, was we rearranged the furniture in the living room. And that's one of the things we did. He's like, it's not going to fit over there. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Just put it in there. And it's, it's like exact change, but it fits. So he's like, I don't know how you do that without measuring things. And I'm like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what have you learned that gives you meaning?
Well, the one thing I'm learning right now is that I need to spend more time in my Bible, because Christ is the one who grounds me and takes care of me. And sometimes I lose sight of that because I think we get busy and we just don't, we think we can do it on our own, and it just doesn't work that way. And so for me, it's learning to be still, which I'm really usually not, because I'm just go, right? It's just to be still and take the time and to dig in and to really ground myself in that, in his word, and then to share it with others as well. So that's my big thing right now. And and that brings, the meaning to your life, because it's, because you want to be like Jesus. You want to do what he did. You want to help others. You want to, be wise in your decisions, and, things like that. And if you're just, going off half cocked all the time, that's not what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you prefer self-study or classes more? Or was it a mix for you?
Well, one thing I learned when I did my real estate broker's class is I am not a great online learner at all, because I got a grant to go to class, but it was online, and I had never done an online class before. I'd always had my butt in a chair in a classroom with a teacher in front of me that I could ask questions. And if I needed it explained a different way, then they were there to be able to do that, or hopefully do that. And so that was a whole different animal for me. And I really, really struggled with that. I got it done, but it was really, really hard. So for me, being in the classroom and having that interaction is better for me. I can do some of the self-study, But, I think having other people around that you can kind of bounce things off of too is helpful, because when I was going through class, I tried to, I would call in, and because I would have questions about this or that or whatever, and I really didn't get much help. So I kind of had to just figure things out on my own. And I think that's always harder in one respect, or at least if you have somebody that you can just kind of bounce things off of, because that might just give you a clue where I need to do this, XYZ, or I need to go this way with that, or, whatever. But, so I think definitely for me, being in a classroom is better.
I have a quick question, and you don't have to answer if it's too personal. I'm not trying to pry. I'm just genuinely curious.
Sure.
What prompted you to want to get into real estate?
Well, my husband always laughs and he says, well, you sold everything else but.
Oh,
I mean, over the years, because I've been picking and selling since 2008. And I mean, I've sold silverware, cars, clothes. I mean, you name it. I've probably sold it. Not animals though. Uh, or people. But he's like, well, you should just sell. He's like, you should sell houses. He's like, because that would be like the next progression, right? And then the thing with that is, because I do have that niche is of picking and selling. If I have a client who has stuff that they want to get rid of, I mean, I can help them do that, because we can put it into the distribution network. We can have an estate sale. I mean, we can have a yard sale. There's a myriad of things that we can do to get the house ready to go. So I can help them all the way from just a little bit to to the whole, the whole
enchiladas?
yeah, I can't think of the word I want to use.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. But enchilada is good. Yeah, so if they just want to like organize and declutter, we can do that. Like I said, or if they want to get the house ready to sell, we can do that. If they want to sell the house, I can do that. So I can take them, however far they want to go with it. So, because I want to be kind of a one-stop shopping, instead of saying, well, I don't, or giving them the answer of, well, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. I don't know. I mean, granted, in some things, being a broker is not in my wheelhouse. Like, if they have legal matters, then they need to talk to an attorney. If they have financial matters, they need to talk to a CPA or whatever. I'm not going there. But as far as like just dealing with stuff, oh yeah, we can deal with stuff. Or, they need to get, they need an electrician, or they need a plumber, or they need they need to have their dog's nails cut, or they need a haircut, or whatever it is. I don't want to, I could say, well, I have a recommendation for this or recommendation for that. And whether they take it or not, I mean, that's up to them. But I want to at least have an answer for them. So.
What got you into have you always been a helper?
I don't remember. Well, yeah, I guess so. I think looking back on it, except when I was like little, like I don't remember, but as like in my teenage years and stuff, like I would always help my mom and my grandma, and like right now my aunt, she's 91, and I go on Saturday mornings, and she still lives on her own, and I go on Saturday mornings and we have coffee, and I clean her apartment and bring her whatever it is that she needs. And, if there's somewhere she wants to go, we do that. We had another friend who, her family didn't want anything to do with her kids for whatever reason. And so we kind of brought her into our family, and she ended up with cancer. So I helped take care of her till she died. And then my mom died in 23. And then my husband's parents, I had a house in Fort Collins that I had bought back in 2007. And then my husband and I got married in 2012. And then in 2016, his dad called us and he was just like, I need help because his mom had Lewy body dementia.
Mm.
And his dad had always kept her at home. But she was just to a point where, he was still trying to promote her work. Her name was Weimer, and she actually was the creator of like Rocky Mountain Rumble and Ram Proud, their bronze sculptures over at CSU.
Mm.
And then she also did the bear that stands on the hill at UNC.
Oh.
And she did like 150 pieces in like 15 years.
Wow.
And she was world renowned. And for her
Mm.
to end up with Lewy body dementia was just
Mm.
super sad to watch.
Mm.
Because here's this amazing, talented sculptor. And before she did sculpting, she actually she painted. So I don't know if you could see like that picture behind me.
Mm-hmm.
She painted that one.
Wow.
Oh, actually, both of those.
Wow. They're gorgeous.
And she was one of 5 women in the world to do monumental sculpture.
Wow.
And anyway, so his dad called us one day and he said, I need help. He'd hired a girl to move in with him and help, and she really wasn't helping, and he had asked her to leave, and she told him that she wasn't going anywhere. And well, I had other thoughts about that. And so we got her on her way, and then we moved in and helped take care of his mom till she passed away. And then his dad ended up with bladder cancer.
Oh, man.
And so we ended up taking care of him. So, and my husband and I are both only children.
Mm.
So it's just, and we each have one son. And so now we're down to just my aunt. And then my son is in Missouri.
Mm.
And then I have a granddaughter who's here with her mom because they split. And then he and his wife just had another little girl in November.
Oh, okay.
So we're hoping to go see them in April.
Cool. Yeah, caregiving is kind of hard. I do caregiving with my brother for my mom and my sister-in-law. Their health is stable, but they, we just need to be. It's a good thing that we tag team each other. But I know for other people, they get much more, cancer and all these different dementia and all that kind of stuff. And that's really hard. I appreciate you hanging in there and helping your family members out and helping people, you know, during that hard time of life. What did you think you learned from all that caregiving that helped you with your own life?
Well, I think it's really hard, and the people that do it like full time, like that's their job. I have huge respect for that because I personally couldn't do that as a job. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Helping take care of others, because we had like with his mom, like hospice came in, and then like after his dad was in the hospital, the nurses came in, and things like that. And so we had like professional help as well. And it was the same thing when I was taking care of Betty. She had a nurse that came in a couple of times a week, and then I was in and out all the time. And then she finally got to a point where she was like, I don't want to live in the apartment anymore. She's like, I'm ready. I want to go to the nursing home. I want to go to hospice. They had told her that she could go be on hospice because she was getting close enough. Or she could stay at home, whatever. They gave her the option at that point. She could do either one. And she chose to go to the nursing home, to the hospice floor. And I think, and I always tell my aunt, I want you to be able to make your own decisions until you can't. I want you to be in charge of you until you can't. And that's what I want for me too, or for Heath, is for us to be able to make our decisions and not have other people intervening unnecessarily, I'm going to say. Because I think that's really important that you keep your independence. And and everybody that we've helped, it's like, that's been the goal, is to keep them as independent as possible, as long as possible.
Mm.
And so that's what I would want, for myself as well. And for Heath, and, anybody else that I end up helping, down the road. I mean, who knows? We could have another Betty situation, because her kids, they were really strange, because right before Christmas, and her daughter lived in Virginia, and her daughter called me right before Christmas, and they were going to Las Vegas for Christmas. Well, if you're going to go from Virginia to Las Vegas, you got to fly over Colorado.
Mm.
And she was terrified that her mother would pass away while they were in Las Vegas. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you're flying over Colorado anyway. Why don't you just make a stop? Take a day or two or whatever and come in and see your mom.
Mm.
That would make sense, right? Before you go on your way to Nevada and do your thing, before you go back home. But she wasn't having that. When I mentioned it, it made her mad.
Mm.
But it was very strange. So, and that's the other thing is, and then also dealing with like estate cleanouts and stuff, because a lot of times we were dealing with families whose, they had elderly parents, and sometimes one or the other had passed, and there was one family that we worked with here in Loveland, and the dad had passed away, and the mom, they'd put her into memory care, and the daughter is like, it's just a house full of stuff, and she's just like, I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. She's like, I want it out, and I want to get the house on the market, and I want to be done. And that's usually what you see. Or the kids have already come from, because a lot of times they live out of state, and they'll come and they'll ravage through whatever it is that they want, and then they take it, and then they leave a mess for the real estate person.
Mm.
And they tell the realtor, well, you deal with it. You get rid of it, right? Because I got to go back to California or New York or wherever it is I'm from. I don't have time to deal with it. Just get it done and get the house on the market and whatever. So we've dealt with cases like that as well. And so family dynamics are certainly interesting.
It kind of depends on the people, I guess.
Well, and like the people that, like that last house that we did here, with the mom in memory care, the daughter that we worked with, she was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Super easy to work with. And but we had others that, weren't so great. But it's like everything, you're going to have, the difficult people, and you're going to have the easy ones. So you just have to just kind of roll with it. And
what's some things that you learned to deal with the difficult people? That's something all of us can learn.
Well, sometimes they just want to talk, right? So listening's like a big thing, because they want to complain about whatever it is they want to complain about, and I can't believe my mom kept 30 pieces of this stupid glass plates, whatever, and it's just like, well, I don't know why your mom did what she did, but that's what happened. And so this is what we get to deal with. And it's not that big of a deal, really, and that's the thing is, not blowing it up, not making it worse. Cause like I said, sometimes they just need to vent. They just need to get out whatever, because especially like if somebody's died and they're grieving and they have to deal with all this stuff, then like, that's a whole nother animal. And a lot of times, sometimes those people might be isolated as well. because they may not have like a really strong family structure, or or friends, or a big support network. And sometimes you're just it, because you're there, and you're the one that's there to help. So you have to just listen and help them through whatever. And sometimes that's all they need, is just a sounding board, just somebody to listen to them.
Mm.
And and if they're ranting and raving, and I mean, there's been times where I'm just like, you know what, obviously this is not a good time, so I'm gonna leave, and when you're ready to continue with whatever it is that we're doing, then you can let me know and we'll continue. And I think sometimes you have to know when to take yourself out of it.
Mm.
Because if somebody's just having a total meltdown, and or like they're just being really mean to you, like I'm not going to put up with that. Because if I haven't done anything to make you mad, you're just mad just to be mad. Well, that's fine, but I'm not going to be a part of that. Whenever you get over yourself, then you can call me and we'll continue on. But
People are very emotional creatures.
They are. I mean,
We like to think we're rational, but we're not. God help
not
us.
always. Not always. And like I said, especially if somebody's died, or somebody's in in the process of dying, or whatever the situation is that could be bad. You just have to I just do the best that I can with them, and try to listen to them. And if I have guidance I can give them, I can make a suggestion. If they're willing to take it. Sometimes they're not willing to take it, and that's fine. Like I said, you can't get too you can't get hurt about it, because in at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
And maybe you can help them, and maybe you can't. And there are some people that you can't help. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can try, but they won't cooperate.
Mm.
So
um what challenges do you need to overcome, and what's holding you back?
me.
Mhm. You don't have
No,
you can
me
always
myself,
decline a
and
question if
I.
something bothers you, so don't worry about it. It's not a I'm grilling you thing. These are my possible questions to ask to try to just learn about learners, so
Yeah,
all
no,
walks of
me,
life.
no, honestly, me, myself, and I get in my own way. And that's the thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck, and I'm really not. I just need to move forward. And I think that's the thing, is you just have to keep moving forward, and not, not look back. They always say that the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield, for a reason. Because you need to leave what's in the rear view mirror behind,
Mm.
and move forward. And sometimes I get stuck in that. Is I just
Mm.
need to move forward, and not get caught up in it.
Yeah, one of the things is I'm working through decluttering our storage units and my room, and we had so much stuff for like 40 something years. I'm slowly in the process of decluttering,
Mm-hmm.
and I read a bunch of books about decluttering and minimalization and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Marie Kondo's, not her book, but her manga that's based on her book,
Mm-hmm.
um, had two revelations for me. The main reasons why people hold on to stuff is fear of the future and trouble letting go of the past. And I thought that was really revealing to me. That I was like, that was an epiphany. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's me. I'm like both. It's like, God help me. And so I was like, talking about letting go and moving forward prompted
Mm-hmm.
that thought in my head. And I'm like, did you ever struggle with like getting rid of stuff of your own, or you just found that you had, and that's how you got into helping people declutter and you know uh, move the thing to people who need instead, or how did that was it personal and then you ended up helping people, or was it just you had a knack for like selling, like, picking and selling kind of thing?
So when I was little, I was born in Arkansas, and when I was little, when I was 7, we moved to Colorado. My parents were never married. My dad was not a very nice person, and my mom stayed twisted up about him for whatever reason her whole life. And so we moved to Colorado, and I'd already been coming to Colorado because my aunt was here, the one who's 91 now. And I think they started flying me to Colorado when I was 4 or 5, for the summer, because she was a teacher. And so I would come and spend the summers with her since she was off. And so I told my mom when I was 7 that I was ready to move to Colorado. I was done with Arkansas. And so we came, and then I don't know, maybe 6 months later or something, my dad talked her into moving back to Arkansas. And we did the whole gypsy thing from Arkansas to Colorado, Arkansas to Colorado, Colorado to Arkansas. I mean, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for, I know I was in junior high, because we were in Arkansas at one point, and I went to school, and I ended up at school with one of my cousins who was a year older than me. But she was real popular and cheerleader, that kind of thing. And I'm the little poor kid. And, I remember I went to I signed up for an art class and went to class, and the teacher gave me this list of things. And she says, okay, well, when you come back for the next class, you need to have all this stuff. So I went back for the next class. Well, I didn't have any of that stuff because we didn't have any money. And so she read me out in front of the class. And so I left school and I went home. And when my mom got home, I told her, I said, I'm going back to Colorado. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going. Either you're going to take me and we're going to stay put, or I'm going on my own, or whatever. It's like, I didn't care at that point. I was done. I was over it. And so, being the gypsies that we were, you could only take what would fit in the car. So I got really good at Tetris, putting things in the car. Because that was always my job, was to pack the car. And so I never got to keep anything per se, right? Because we were always moving, and you can't take, I mean, wait, what can you take in the car? I mean, really, not a lot. And so I just got used to not having things. I would have it for a while till it was time to go again. And then, and then it was done. And I do have, I have one set of books that my aunt bought for me when I was a little kid. It's a Laura Ingalls Wilder set. Yeah. That she bought me when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And I've carried them. I still have those.
Wow.
And then there was another little set of books. They're just little itty bitty books. Beatrix Potter. So like Benjamin Bunny, and I think there's 4 of them. And I have those. And that's it. Those are the only things I have from when I was a kid.
Wow.
And so, because I never got to hold on to anything, I never really got attached to anything. And so I don't have that problem, per se. And when I started picking and selling, it really started when my grandma, she lived on her own until she was in her 90s. And then she woke up one morning and her legs didn't work, or her one leg anyway. Oh. And come to find out, she needed a knee replacement, which she actually ended up getting. And it was funny, the same surgeon that had done a knee replacement 26 years earlier did the second one.
Wow.
And he told her, he says, wow, my work's really good. And so
Aw.
yeah, so here she is in her 90s getting a knee replacement. I
Aw.
mean, her mind was still there. I mean, she was, like I said, she was living on her own. I mean, she's still cooking and gardening and sewing, and I mean the whole nine, right? Like she never slowed down. And so that we did the knee replacement, and she went to rehab, and we decided that she probably should live with my aunt. She probably really shouldn't be on her own anymore. And so she was okay with that, moving in with her. So we had everything all set up at my aunt's house. And but when my aunt and my mom started cleaning out her apartment, they got stuck in that very thing. Right. And I'm like, I mean, they've been working on it like for months. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Happened, and then we found this, and then it was whatever, and they would just get stuck in that. And so me and my girlfriends went in it took us, I think, 3 days. And we went in and we got everything out, cleaned it top to bottom. And she'd lived there for 25 years. And, she still had the burnt orange carpet that they'd never changed out. She did have new appliances and stuff, but the old, fake blonde wood countertops, they were all still in there, and the old, cabinets with the weird looking copper handles or whatever, they were, that was all still intact. And that we did it in, like I said, 3 days. And then we were done. But like I said, they got into the very same thing. But when I'm helping people, what I found, and I did this with my aunt, because we cleaned out her apartment last year, just to declutter her, was I sat her down in a chair and I said, and I would bring things to her. And I would say, okay, do you want to keep this? Do you want to get rid of it? Do you want to donate it? What do you want to do? And so we have our piles. And so you go through and say, okay, and you go quick, right? It's like, there's not a lot. So there's not time to reminisce and time to get into those trenches, and I wanted her to have what she wanted to have. But it's just let's get rid of everything else. Let's donate it. Let's sell it. Let's throw it away. I mean, wherever it needs to go, let's put it there. And so I don't have any physical attachments to anything, necessarily. And my husband thought that was very strange when we got married. But I told him, I said, well, I never had that as a kid. I never got to keep anything. So I never, and so it never was a big deal. Things came and went, and when we first got married, sometimes he would go to work, and whenever he came home, all the furniture would be different. Because I would have been out, found new furniture, and then sold the other stuff while he was at work. And so he would come home and everything would be the living room would be totally different. He'd be like, oh, you did it again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's the thing is people, they always think that their stuff is the best stuff. That's the other thing, because they think they have these, these old, carnival dishes or whatever, it's going to make them thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just I hate to tell you this, but that is not the case, and, but again, it's the attachment, right? It's the sentimental, of, or they think, well, I had to save up, 3 years worth of green stamps to get, this vase or whatever it is, so this should be worth, $5,000, because it's, 40 years old or, whatever it is. Well, probably not, And it's just kind of helping getting people past that. And for me, it's like, well, okay, well, if we get rid of this, well, it could help somebody else, because it could help somebody, with people helping people, for example, moving into a new apartment who don't have anything. So would you rather throw it away, or would you rather give it to somebody that can use it?
Right.
I'm all about repurposing and putting things in the hands of people that can use it.
Yeah.
I don't like to throw things away unless it's actually trash.
Yeah.
And some things just are. But there's a lot of things that I've seen people throw away that I'm just like, somebody could use that. And a lot of times, like, I'll rescue it and send it somewhere else besides the landfill.
Yeah.
So
So for me, what advice would you have for me dealing with 40, 50 years of stuff? Not only my own stuff, but my family stuff. Because one of the things is I can't just get rid of my family stuff without some stuff I can, like old
right,
mail and old catalogs and
sure,
that kind of stuff. Um, but you know, um, it it we live in a small apartment and we have numerous storage units, and I'm slowly trying to get through it all. And the it's kind of hard to like everything is not an easy to. I have it's like it would be easier if I could just go through all of my stuff and then slowly go through their stuff. But the way everything's packed up in the storage unit, that's not possible.
gotcha.
And so, um, have you worked in storage units before, or is it mostly just home estate sale stuff?
We've done both. We've cleaned out storage units. We actually took a trip to Denver to clean out 3, and we got there,
Wow.
and I think we ended up doing 5.
Whoa.
Because they had a like a storage war sale, how they
Mm,
do, and these 5, I don't know if they got missed or they didn't want to wait to have another sale because they needed to turn them, or I don't know exactly what the situation was, but we got in and got them cleaned out. It was not a big deal. But in your situation, I would say, you said it's family stuff. So is the family that the items belong to, are they able to help you?
Then physically, no.
Okay.
My brother can periodically, but he has some
Okay.
health um, hip issues that make standing for long periods of time challenging.
Okay.
So he's gonna try to go to the storage unit when I don't go, and I stay home with mom and Rita, my mom and my sister-in-law.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so it's mostly me right now, just going to the unit, going through stuff, and slowly decluttering. I can ask people for help periodically. I have a friend who's retired who's kindly giving me rides to storage units and helping me declutter as best as he can. Sometimes he does great ideas, and sometimes he does ideas that I really don't agree with. It's like, but um, you need somebody. I physically I don't drive, so it's kind of I
Right.
need somebody to be able to go with me
Sure.
to take me there and be like a sounding board kind of thing. Is like, well, we can work on this thing. I'm like, okay, let's work on that. It's like hack away at stuff kind of thing. Um, the fact that you clean the apartment out in 3 days is kind of mind blowing for me. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I don't know if I could do that. It's like I don't know if I have the stamina for that. But
Well, and I had my girlfriends. I said we went in as a team. I think there was
yeah.
like 8 of us,
Oh wow. I thought you said your
and
girlfriend. I thought there was only one. I didn't realize there was
no, there
a
was no.
team of
I
people.
think there was about 8 of us, and so we went in and just like I said, we tore through everything, and um, you know, we had one. We were loading her truck, and she was going for donation. We had another one like hauling trash, down to the dumpster. We had others of us that were cleaning, and there was like stuff that I wanted to keep, or that actually my mom and my aunt wanted to keep at the time. Um, But then my aunt, like, she had her house and then she downsized, so we helped her do hers. And then when my mom had to go to the nursing home, then we had to clean out her apartment. And I still have some family like photos and things like that. But what I did with most of it was and like the artwork and stuff from when my son was little, because I didn't want to get rid of it, like forever. So what I did was, and I know one of the things they recommend doing is you take pictures of things, or you'll scan. Like I scanned all of our family pictures and I have them on an external hard drive. So I didn't have to keep like all the physical pictures to keep wagging them around. Because and we do have some, like I haven't done my husband's families yet because I haven't had time. So like we have all this stuff from when his parents passed away. Like we have like some totes that are like full of pictures and different things like that I'm going to scan in and keep. So then we can get rid of the physical ones of them instead of having to try to lug that stuff around every time we move. Putting it on a thumb drive is a lot easier than, carrying totes full of stuff.
Yeah.
And, and I think too, for me, like his mom, when I was doing it like on a large scale, doing the estate cleanouts, we used his mom's sculpting studio because his dad still had it. Even though obviously she couldn't sculpt anymore, but still had the space because they owned it. And, so I would offload there, but I mean, I would pack that thing. I mean, front to back, side to side, and as tall as I could get it. And, then I would go through things, but sometimes I would walk in. I mean, it was a big space. And I would walk in some days and I would just be like totally overwhelmed with like how much stuff was in there.
I get that a lot.
And
That sounds like more than what I have, but still, I resonate with the feeling.
so I would just have to just pretend like a lot of it didn't exist and just kind of start in one area and just pick a place to start and then just work out from there. And then I would just, I had all my shelving and everything set up and, so I would just, put things where they belonged, as I would go through things, which would be a little different for you because, you're trying to get rid of stuff. And I was, selling it because the other thing I would do when I would clean out a house is I would have them provide a dumpster and a recycle bin. Because I'm like, I'm not going to carry your trash out. I'm not going to take your trash to a different location. If it's trash, I'm going to put it in the trash when I'm cleaning out the house. Because that just makes sense anyway. And they were happy to do it. It wasn't a big deal. And same thing when we did, when we cleaned out his parents' house, we had a roll off and we had an estate sale. Avant-Garde came in and did the estate sale because I knew that it was too close for my husband to get through it, like all the stuff. And I told him even before his dad passed away, I said, we're going to have an estate sale company come in and just take care of this because you're too close to it. I could do it, but it didn't really make sense for me to do it by myself. It was easier just to have Shannon come in. Did you meet Shannon at the event?
I might have. I apologize.
Okay. Well, she'll probably be there on the 24th too. But
okay, that'll be fun to go.
It's a family run. It's her and her son and his wife, and they're awesome, absolutely awesome. I love them to death. And they came in, knocked it out in 2 weeks. We had a sale. And then we went through and, with what was left over, because what they do is they go through and they, like anything that's personal, like personal papers and, pictures and, that kind of stuff. They leave all that and you have to like deal with that. And that's fine. But we filled up a roll off 3 times.
Wow.
What was left over because there was so much stuff. This old paper, because with his mom being an artist and everything, they had like taxes from, probably the 80s. They had kept literally everything. And so, we, obviously sent all that stuff through the shredder, and, we just took like a big old load to the shred place and had them like take care of that. And then all the other stuff, went in the dumpster or whatever. That you just, because you know how it is, you just collect stuff that really, you really just need to put it in the trash.
Yeah, I find that
Because
I'm like,
nobody,
yeah. It's like,
because,
why did I keep this for so long? It's like, oh.
but people do that all the time. It's, or the whole thing, well, I'm going to get this and I'm going to save it for later.
Mm.
Well, later probably doesn't usually come. In my, what I try to do is, if I haven't used it in a year, or if I haven't worn it in a year, or whatever in a year, like, I get rid of it. I'll put it into the network, or I'll sell it, one or the other, or I'll throw it away.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is. But like I said, I mean, I have, people set up so that I can, and they move quickly as well, which is nice, because then, I can just put stuff out on the porch or put it in the driveway, and then it just goes away.
Ah, nice.
Because I don't like, me personally, I don't like ARC and Goodwill and things like that. Like, I don't want to donate to them because I don't like their business practices.
Oh.
And because I know they say that they help people, and maybe they do to a point, but from a lot of the reading I've done, they seem like they help themselves a lot more than they help the people that they say they are. And I don't like that. And so I would rather have a free pile and put it at the end of my driveway and have people who need it or want it or whatever come and get it, and, get rid of things that way. I've done a lot of that. I had a sale in the spring, and I had a bunch of stuff left over that was actually really nice, but I didn't want to try to bring it back in the house. And so I just put a free pile out in front of my house, and there was a lady, we actually had company for dinner. And this lady, she came in, she knocked on the door, and she said, "Is all that stuff really free?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Just help yourself." She's like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I walked back out with her, and I was talking to her, and come to find out, she actually used to live in the neighborhood, but they ended up having to move to Wyoming because they lost their house.
Oh.
Her husband, I mean, she's young, probably late 20s, maybe early 30s, 2 little girls.
Oh.
Little girls.
Oh.
And her husband has cancer.
Oh, man.
And from what I could get, I mean, I didn't ask her a bunch of personal questions, but from what I could gather from her story was that her husband was the breadwinner. And so she said, I'm happy. So she said, so what I'm doing is I pick up free things to sell on the side to help support the family because he can't work. And there was a bunch of good stuff in there for that.
Wow.
That very reason. And I told her, I said, yeah, I said, you take whatever, as much as you like, as much as you want. I mean, a lot of stuff was still brand new with the tags on it. But like I said, I didn't want to bring it back in the house to hold on to it longer for another sale. I just wanted to move it because we have a really small house, and I don't have like his mom's studio anymore to work out of. So I have to keep things moving as well. Because I don't want to get a storage unit because that would just be really bad.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, I'm working slowly, like hoping like 3 to 5 years that we can downsize to, as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the light on. I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah.
There we go. Yeah, what's I like I said, I had a storage unit once for about 2 weeks, just in between in between a move. And that was it. But I think in your situation, it sounds like, how many units do you have? Just a couple?
4.
4? Are they big ones or little ones?
Most there's one big one and medium ones. So I can't remember the dimensions, but they're decent size.
Okay.
I have shelves in one of them, which helped a ton. The other 3 do not have shelves, which we probably should try to get shelves. That would probably make organizing them a lot easier and decluttering a lot easier. Um, but we can talk more about this privately too. But
Yeah.
I know that most of us learners tend to collect stuff because, and I'm just like, I'm at a stage right now where I have commonplace books, which are basically mine are binders, but other people use like regular journals and stuff to write down different things they learn about and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, and I have like 9 binders that are my main ones. 4 of them are more for processing new book notes and things like that and working through projects and whatever. And I want to make room for new stuff in my life and have declutter from the old stuff that I don't want or need anymore. And um, and I just thought maybe a lot of other learners have the same thing where they have like we get attached to our things because for me, I'm one of those people. It's like somebody gives me a gift, it means my friendship to them instead of. And it's kind of hard to let go because I feel like I'm betraying the friendship.
Right.
And it's just kind of challenging. I know some people deal with that, and you've had the opposite, thing where you're able to let go of things and keep the most precious things like the books that you were able to hang on to that your aunt gave you. And, you know, so like a lot of minimalism stuff, like Joshua Becker, he's an author and a Christian, talks about decluttering, and he has several books and online classes and stuff, and he tells people how to help them declutter and stuff like that and live more modestly so that you can be more generous and help more people and not have, stuff ruling your life. And I thought that was really an important message. And I, I'm staring out. I'm 50 now, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be dealing with the storage units and a cluttered life when I'm 70, rattled with arthritis. I want to get to it now,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I don't have a time limit. I don't have a move, and it's really hard to make those decisions. And I read one quote that said that clutter is delayed decisions, and it's really freaking true. Like, oh man, I have clutter on my desk right now, and I'm like, I need to go through it. I went through some of it this weekend, but I slowly just kept hacking away at stuff and like, okay, this I can put here, this I can put here. I can't get rid of this for now. I have to hang on to that for paperwork reasons or whatever like that. But
Right.
um,
Well,
I
and
want
it gets you. I mean, and it doesn't take but a minute
yeah,
for it to. I mean, I have to stay on. Like, I've got some that right now I need to go through.
mm,
Especially after we moved all the furniture around, because like I have a piece of furniture that had stuff in it that I'm getting rid of,
mm,
and so then that stuff had to find somewhere else to go. So now I need to go through that stuff and
yeah,
send it on its way or put it where. Or I'm bad about sometimes not putting things back where they belong.
mm,
Um, so I've got some things like I need to put back in my sewing kit and
yeah,
things like that. I would say the kitchen's probably the most organized because I'm in it the most.
mhm,
But like I went through it not too long ago and I pulled out everything that I don't use,
mm,
that I absolutely don't need, and got rid of it. And some of it I sold because I had a sale in November, I think it was my last one of the year, and sold some of it, and then some of it, and then it was really cool the way it worked out because I called Suzanne, who runs the People Helping People. It's her and her twin sister, and I said, okay, well, we're going to shut up shop at like 11:45. She was here at 11, 40 with the truck, and we closed up. Heath went and picked up all my signs, and then we loaded what was a little bit was left on her truck, and then by 12:30, everything was done and cleaned up, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Wow. Wow.
So, but like I said, I think, for you, I mean, for me, if I had that, I would start small and just figure out, if it's stuff that you really want to keep, like if there's journaling or, projects that you think you might go back to, I would just scan that stuff in and put it on a thumb drive,
Yeah. I have
because that's easier.
my dad's scripts that I've been putting in some boxes and his creative work over the years, over the decades, and I have several boxes I'm putting them in as, to keep as keepsakes. I have things like that of nature that are kind of precious and important to us. My dad passed away years ago, back in 2011, and um, it was like, we they they were his creative works, and maybe we weren't able to make his movies and stuff, but we still have the screenplays, and we may not be able to access some of his screenplays on the computer. We have zip drives. I don't even know if we can use that anymore. We've got, all this kind of stuff, and I need to slowly go through. But right now, I'm in the slowly getting rid of stuff that doesn't matter stage, and just you know, I was able to get rid of one of these bench press that we had in one storage in Greeley with some help with a family member and my friend. Um, and we took it, to the thrift store, and they took it. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
get rid of it. Just like let it go to somebody else and benefit somebody else. I live in an apartment, so I can't just leave stuff out all the time. Um,
Right.
and so I don't have that flexibility to do stuff, so I kind of rely on the thrift stores. Um, and and I I've sold a few things that were kind of hobbies. I had a whole Sailor Moon collection of stuff, and I'm like, I love it. I took pictures of everything and let it go to somebody else who's a Sailor Moon fan. And I made a little bit of money from it, and I'm like, I can use this towards something else in the future, and at least somebody else will get enjoyment from the belongings instead of just staying in a box for like all these years. And but I kind of sidetracked us from the learning stuff, so I'd like to go back to the learning stuff a little bit.
Okay.
Um, um, what problems have you dealt with successfully, and how did you solve them? Going off of all the decluttering stuff, maybe you have some other thoughts or areas that you may have had problems that you solved.
Well, like in what capacity? I mean,
Anything that you like, what helped you get through the online learning class? Um, you know, what, even if it was really challenging and hard, what helped you push through and overcome that?
um, I found, well, I got on YouTube and found like all these different like pre-tests you could take to get
Oh,
you ready for the test. Because when you take your test, you have to take the national test and whatever state that you're in, or
uh,
that you also want to practice real estate in.
mm,
So, because each state has their own test in addition to just the national one across the board. So that was helpful. Um, and then I listened to a lot of different people who were real estate brokers or agents who were helping try to prep people for this. And again, they're teaching things in different ways,
mm,
and like they have, and all the tests had different questions on them, which was good because I can't remember. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, so each state has a question bank, but that banks can be different sizes that
mm,
they pull the test questions out of, because Like, for example, I failed the test the first time.
Mm.
And when I took it the second time, my questions were totally different.
Oh, wow.
And so you can't just think, okay, well, I think I missed this, this, and this, and so this is what I'm going to study. Right. I mean, it gives you a breakdown of like different categories and like what you scored in each category.
Mm.
So you know what areas that you're weak in, that you need to go back and evaluate the material. And so I was told that I think Colorado has like 25,000 questions that they can pull from the bank. Like, I don't know if that's like true or not, but that's what I was told. And it was funny. I went in when I took the test. Oh, sorry. I think I lost you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Sometimes we have internet trouble and one of us will stutter, but it should all work out in the final thing okay.
Let's see.
I can see and hear you fine.
You can see me?
Yep, I can see you and I can hear you.
Oh, I can't see you.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes this happens with internet connections and stuff.
Anyway, so the second time I went in and I took it and I passed, and I was really mad the first time because I don't normally fail things the first time, like
Oh,
tests like that, because like when I went to massage school, like when I had to do state boards, like I passed the first time, and I mean, and that was really, really hard.
mm,
But again, I was actually in class. It was a hands-on, because you're doing massage, so you have to be hands-on,
right.
But when I took the test the second time and I passed, it was the same guy that was running the facility, and he said, well, because I was like, breathing a huge sigh of relief, and he's like, and I was telling him, I was complaining about how I, failed the first time. And he told me, he says, I don't even want to hear about it. He says, don't even talk to me about it. He says, because normally people, whenever they take this test, it's 7 to 10 times before they pass.
Wow.
That's the average.
Oh my
He
goodness.
said, so for you to do it on the second try, he's like, don't even. He's giving me the hand, and I'm like, well, fine. So that made me feel better. But it's just keeping at it. And finding like different ways, you go to YouTube, or you go to, you talk to other people in that, whatever it is. I'm going to say genre, but, because it's like, even at the auto repair shop, sometimes, the guys have to consult other people about things, because we have to talk to the machine shop sometimes if, there's, an engine problem, or, things like that. So you can't just be you necessarily.
So we're at a minute 23 right now. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how we need each other, and your story behind the Silver Network is you're very much a people person, and you understand that we need each other not only to survive financially but emotionally. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and behind the Silver Network of like how you started.
Well, when I was doing estate cleanouts, I mean, we would always hear these stories about, the families would tell us about, this happened or that happened. And, most of the time it wasn't good, or a lot of times it wasn't good. And then, like I said, I got my license in March. And then over the summer, we had a lady that we helped. My husband had a client whose parents had a friend that had a situation because my husband's a yard guy, and she had these crazy weeds. I mean, probably 4 feet tall. And the county was on her. The REA was getting ready to cut her electricity off because they were like, we're not walking through that mess. She lived on 2 acres. And she's like, I need some help. And she'd had other people come out, and they wanted her to sign a contract, or they wouldn't do anything because it was weeds, or whatever. And we wouldn't normally take on a job like this, but she was really in a situation, and nobody was willing to help her. And even the county, she had called them and for recommendations of somebody to come and help her, and they were like, well, we can't be biased, so we can't. You're on your own. And so we were there for 2 days. I was there one day with him, helping him. And so we got things pretty well buttoned up. And, she was telling us that, she'd had some other contractors come to do some other work. And they basically just taken her money and hadn't done anything at all. And she'd managed to get some of the money back, but not all of it. And I was just like, this is just ridiculous. I mean, I've been hearing about this stuff for years. I mean, and things have happened to us too, where, people have said they're going to do something and then they don't do it. And the other thing with seniors is a lot of them, they've lost their spouses, or they've outlived all their friends. Like that's my aunt, for example. And the same thing happened to my grandma. They both have outlived all their friends, and so it was just a way to, kind of bring the community together, to have business people in the community that they could connect with if they need whatever, but then also to each other, and maybe make new friends, because a lot of them, they need friends too, and that's, when you were there at the last one, we were up, having to talk to each other. And I think that's half the battle, is because a lot of times, like, we don't, they're not in social situations. So like they don't talk to somebody, or, they, if there is somebody that's willing to talk to them, then they just talk their ear off because they haven't been around anybody, to talk to them. And we run across that too, especially working with the seniors, is a lot of times, like I said, they don't really have a lot of interaction. And so whenever they have your undivided attention, they take full advantage of it, which is fine. Sometimes it just takes you a little longer to get things done. But to me, it was just, it made sense to, especially being a real estate broker, if I can, bring some value to whoever I'm working with, and whether they use me, whether they have real estate or not, if that's a service that, that can be provided, then I'm happy to facilitate that. I mean, obviously, they would need to, I do the best I can with the information that I have and the people that I know. But at the end of the day, if they want to get nitty gritty, then they need to do their own vetting, but as far as, vendors go, but, just being them able to, have an afternoon where they can connect with other people, and people that's their age, and things that they can talk about, that they're going to be in the same, in the same track, because my 70-year-old's not really going to have a lot in common with my 23-year-old.
Yeah.
I think that makes that a little more challenging, but anyway, so that's kind of how that all got started.
Yeah, it's sorely needed. It's like I went to one of the senior advisory meetings at the Loveland City Council building, and they were in the process of trying to figure out how to help people, especially with the senior loneliness epidemic, is because everybody is so spread out. Most people are across states, and they just don't have that interconnected neighborhood thing that we had 40, 50 years ago.
Right, because nobody talks
Um,
to each other.
Nobody talks to each other, and it's like, you know, uh, we live in fear of our neighbor instead of, loving our neighbors. And, and the people who are the most vulnerable, the seniors, they, uh, they're left out to dry, and the fact that you're trying to do something to foster real community and meet trustworthy business people who won't take advantage of them, in more of a social get together, non-salesy, it's like, here, let's get to know each other the old school way. I went to that event and I had a wonderful time, and the food was great and people were nice, and it was, very down to earth. I've been to networking things in the past where everybody's trying to be all puffed up and I'm wonderful, so please hire me. I'm a consultant, I'm a this, I'm a that. But this is like, what do you do? It's like, what do you want to talk about? Oh, the food's great. It's like icebreakers and the conversation game that you had. It was like, I really liked the vibe of it. And it was just like, this is what we need is more homegrown community activity. And just,
Mhm.
the senior center is great, but sometimes you just need, something a little more laid back where there isn't just a, we're going to dance. It's like not everybody wants to dance. It's
Right.
like,
Well, and my thing was, with playing the bingo, the get to know you bingo was, you know, was to get everybody to talk to each other. And when
yeah.
we do the one, this month we're gonna do a scavenger hunt.
Oh, cool.
Um, so in a photo booth, and we may have some live music. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to kind of like change it up, and but not have it be, everybody can introduce themselves and say what they do, but
Right.
nobody's obligated to hire anybody. But I figure people get to know each other, at least if they need something, then they can be comfortable calling that person at least and
Right.
getting more information, whether they
Yeah.
hire them or not,
Yeah.
but at least they can feel comfortable to call and ask questions. Hey, this
Right.
is what's going on. What do you think I should do?
Right.
Or hey, this is going on, or maybe, is this something that you could handle? If not, who do you recommend?
Right.
Just to
Yeah.
build that web,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
um,
It's really cool. And so this is probably going to air after our event. So there'll be more meetings in the future, and I'll put the information of whatever pertinent close up event is in the video description, and I'll put your Facebook link um, in there. And then I usually, since I started coming, I'll put some stuff on my own personal website. So, but what I'd like to do is start wrapping things up. We have a half hour, but I don't know what your time frame is what it looks like. Are you good for a half hour, or do you want to wrap it up in like 15 minutes?
I'm good either way.
Okay. Um, I have some more learning questions for you, if I
Okay.
can talk about those.
Sure.
Is what is you mentioned when you were struggling with the online class that you went to YouTube as a resource. What are some other resources or types of tools or things that you've found that are very helpful in, in your personal learning stuff?
Um, so the other thing for me was, so with the online thing, it was online books,
Mhm.
right? I had the materials, but everything was digital.
Ah,
And I actually paid and ordered the books, so I would have the physical books, so I could highlight and underline, because I like that tactile, um, part of it too. Um, and I feel like I do better if I have it like a physical book in my hand than like just trying to read something on a screen.
mm,
Because after a while that just puts me to sleep.
ah,
And so for me that was that was important to have those as well. And then we got flashcards and things like that. And like even when I was in college and in massage school, we would do flashcards. And then my husband or my best friend or whoever, then they would, quiz me. And, that worked well too. So just kind of a combination of all those. And then I think too, whenever you have to like write out flashcards, that also helps you remember.
Mm.
Because you're hearing it, you're seeing it, you're writing it, and then having to respond back to whatever the question is.
Mm. So those are more tactile learning tools are more suited for your inclinations. What works for you best.
Yeah. Like I said,
Okay.
the online stuff, I really struggled with that because I thought, oh, this is great. Well, I'll just download all this and I'll just, be on my way. And I'm like, no.
Aw.
I did it for the first, let's see, June, July. I did it for the first, because they give you 6 months, I think it is, to complete the program.
Mm.
And so for the first half of it, I tried to do just the online thing, and it just didn't work. So we had to order the books, and then I got on with it and got to it. Because
do you keep like notebooks of your learnings that help you the process of like there's a thing called commonplace books, which are basically journals where you write down random bits of information and quotes or they could be recipes or they could be different things that you've learned about in a very non-sequential way. And there's like digital ways to do commonplacing. There's regular journal notebooks you can use, or you can use what I'd use is like binders and stuff. Have you done anything organically like that for yourself? No? Okay. Good to know.
no, and a lot of times, like if I have taken like a bunch of notes or something, like when I was in college and everything, I would, like once I was done with that semester, I would just throw everything away. It would all just get recycled.
Okay.
Because I felt like I was, I was done with that thing. Like my recipes, like for baking and stuff. What I did was because I had those just all written in a notebook, but my notebook is like actually coming apart because I've used it so much. And so what I did was I typed them all up and then I laminated them.
Oh, that's helpful.
So then that way, when I'm working in the kitchen, if they get splattered or whatever, I can just wipe them off, and
Nice.
it's no big deal.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So let me go. This question we kind of covered a little bit, but I'm kind of curious what you might say. Is what have you learned that you found helpful? And it could be from college, it could be from the diving, which we barely touched on. It could be for the different occupations, learning about cooking and stuff. What have you found? What have you learned that you found helpful for yourself?
Well, sometimes I have to slow down.
Mm.
I go too fast. My husband would agree with that.
Aw.
And trying to stay organized, because one thing I found is like if things are like just totally upside down, like I have to stop and like get organized and then like start again.
Mm.
And then not being too serious about things, and being, you have to be willing to be flexible, because maybe one thing doesn't work but something else will, and you have to be willing to explore that. You can't just say, well, it has to be this way, it has to be done this way, because not necessarily. I mean, some things yes, but a lot of things no. And so I think it's just that willingness to be flexible in whatever it is that you're doing, and have some patience with yourself, because that's another thing is I get frustrated with myself. And it's just like, why can't I do this? Why can't I get through it? Or, whatever. Cause I get stuck like say when I was doing the real estate, but I got through it. I eventually met my end goal. It just took me a little longer than I had anticipated it taking me. Because I thought, I'm super smart. And that's the other thing is, you can't think you're all that because you're not. And but I thought I'm super smart. I can do this. I can just whip right through this. It shouldn't be any big deal. Oh, kind of was. So that didn't work real well. So I had to reevaluate myself and take a different approach to that.
Well, those are really good answers. Thank you very much. So, did you have any thoughts or questions for me?
How long have you been doing this? Seems like, you're pretty.
I started back in, excuse me, April of 2024. And I launched it, uh, my YouTube channel then. I'm probably going to expand to Substack. I just have to figure out artwork and stuff. And artwork is not something I'm very good at. And so I was like, I have things that I'm good at and things I'm not good at, like editing. This is not going to get edited. And even though I probably should learn how to edit, I just don't have a mind for it. It's like, my brother used to be an editor back when we worked in media production, and he was very good at it, but his eyesight is not letting him pursue that anymore. But I just, math is not my strong suit. And it's just like, you know what? This is something I'm just doing for me and anybody else who happens to enjoy it.
Sure.
And, you know, learning about other learners is, we come from a wide variety of backgrounds and occupations and experiences. And it's been really interesting and heartening to hear different people's thoughts on learning. And it's, I find it really interesting and helpful, edifying. I really enjoy connecting with other people like yourself, and not only just having coffee with you, but just like having these conversations and just being ourselves and not putting on a show. It's like just here's, let's talk and see where the conversation flows.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that was my long-winded answer. The answer is back in August 2024. I Right now I'm trying to do about one interview a month to release, and sometimes because of scheduling, I'll get like two or three. Then I'll release them as I can. Um, that way, I have some people in the queue. And
Sure.
but but did you have any other thoughts or questions?
Is it all just people that you meet in the community that you interview, or how does that?
It's a mix. I actually met some people online. There's an online social media platform called Alignable, which I met Sarah, the lady I interviewed, um, Sarah Troy, who's a podcaster and a learner as well. And she had some challenges in, she had neurodivergent issues and stuff back before it ever got, understood. She was growing up in, back in the 50s and 60s and stuff. And and I met some people on Alignable and I interviewed them. Some people are real life and community people like yourself. I met in person. Other people I've met through different social media platforms. Like one uh, uh, some of my people that I've interviewed were from what's called This Little Corner, is an arena of people who know about Jordan Peterson, who is a psychologist who's kind of a controversial figure, but he actually has a lot of depth to him and helps people. Um, and some people don't like him because he says things that they don't like. But some of us have kind of, through a long series of internet wanderings, found each other on a what's called Discord, Discord server called Bridges of Meaning, and that's where the book came from. Was that arena online, trying to foster in real life community, uh, like the people who created the online community have. It was it was never supposed to stay online. It was supposed to facilitate similar things to what you do. It's called estuary, and small group, small discussion conversations that basically have more meaning and depth than just a regular surface level conversation. You really need people who are more grounded in who they are and not reactive, whether they're right or left, so they can entertain people from different walks of life or different worldviews and listen to and try to understand them from where they're coming from. Um, and it's a really powerful community builder. Uh, and it's a small group oriented type of protocol called Estuary. I can tell you more about it and loan you my book if you ever want to read it or something. Um, but that's one thing I was going to talk to you about. Maybe we could entertain the idea of doing a small thing for Silver Network, Silver Nest Network kind of thing with Estuary. I don't do it myself. A couple of the people who were involved with the book project are involved in Estuary. I just don't have enough people around me who are interested in it. And I have more other interesting things that I like to do, like my podcast and talking to people and Curiosity Club and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But so a lot of people online, quite a few people in real life. Um, I just branched out into Reddit, and am, tonight I'm going to be talking with a gentleman from Australia who's going to be interviewing me, and we're going to be talking about community. So I definitely, if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about Silver Nest Network a little bit with him.
Sure.
Um, and see if other people in Australia can do something like you're doing with Silver Nest. And but I that's a kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's good. All right.
Yeah. So
Well, that's
what?
all I can think of at the moment.
Okay. So I have one last question for you. Do you have any last thoughts or words of encouragement for other learners or helpers?
Just be patient and stay the course.
Mm, wise words. That sounds wonderful. Why don't we go ahead and wrap it up then? Susan, thank you so much for being on NARA Fellowship. We really appreciate you. To learn more about the Silver Network and Susan's occupations and stuff that she might be able to help you here locally, just check the video description below. And thank you for listening. Take care.